Hello future tech leaders, I am Sindhuja. Based on my own experience, I know that learning the right skills can shape our future. What if I say learning was as thrilled as the tech world itself? There we go. A cloud foundation, that's exactly what you will experience. From day one, you will be immersed in the interactive sessions and expert-led courses that covers most of the widely used technologies in the zone of data science to cloud computing, which brings more light to the life of a techie. I'm so excited to help you and unlock the true potential of a technology. Well, then why to wait? Let's see what it unfolds.
In simple, the supplier life cycle in Ariba follows these standard steps. One is supplier request. Basically, it is called where you are getting your supplier requested station or supplier is created in your Ariba portal. The next step will be registration. Registration is nothing but once you inform the supplier that, hey, I am going to register you in Ariba. In order to get into Ariba, please click on the link and accept the registration and he will process with the other step. That is called registration. After he is registered, now we have access to control him. I mean control is not the correct word. We can able to connect with him over a network and then we can do qualification part. Why do we do qualification? Qualification is nothing but the supplier is qualified for a particular commodity or a service for a particular region. And if it is extended, it can also be by department. Maybe a company may be having multiple departments and this supplier qualification is relevant to one particular department. In that case, we can qualify that particular supplier for a particular department also. We are going to see this in detail. And after this, we are going to check the performance of the supplier. How the supplier is performing based on his previous transactions or how he is responding to our question, and all these things will be monitored as part of supplier performance. Once we do this activity, then we are going to qualify him for a preferred status. He is preferred over other suppliers. That is what it means. And once we do all these things, we can also make to know how we can disqualify the future. How we can disqualify him. All these steps or processes part of SLP or CPM that we are going to see. In supplier management, we are going to see supplier request, supplier registration, supplier qualification, supplier, how we will be activating and deactivating. What are all different alien IDs which we come across when we are talking in supplier module? And what would you offer? SAP integration from Ariba side. It's a simple integration which we don't need to do. That is taken care by Ariba only. And before that in interviews or maybe in job profiles. Also, you will be seeing experience required in the field of SAP's PM, SPM. All are referred to the same. Latest module is SLP, which is nothing but Supplier Lifecycle Performance Management. Supplier Lifecycle Performance. You can add management or without. Management also makes sense. Supplier Performance, Supplier Lifecycle Performance Management. Here to SAP Ariba was providing CPM, which is nothing but Supplier Information and Performance Management. Also, you will also see SPMM Supplier Performance Management. Now, these two are outdated in the sense. Now, any new supplier, any new customer is taking Ariba subscription for SLP. They will only take SLP only. Ariba is not supporting anymore than SPM. How can we identify when your client is having whether he is using latest SLP or a previous version of SLP? When you see in the create menu, if you see supplier, then this is the old environment. If you see create supplier request, then that is new environment. That means it is latest we can able to say, or it is the current module which is supported by Ariba. When you seek supplier request, that is a new environment. If you see create supplier, that is the old environment. Now the first step in supplier request will be creation of a supplier request. What is supplier request? How you onboard a supplier, even interview or in SARI interview or any profiles. Also, you will be seeing the different warnings. How you onboard a supplier. It is nothing but how you are going to bring external supplier into your environment, that we call onboarding of a supplier. Through a supplier request, we are going to onboard the process. I will just explain the process. What will happen? We are going to go to create, as we have seen upstream and downstream. In the upstream part, we are going to create and click on supplier request. The first step will be create supplier request. And then a form will appear where you need to fill the vendor details of a basic vendor details. Once you enter this form and you click for the step made, then it will go for an approval process. Generally, it will be approved by either supplier manager or category manager. Category manager means, for example, that supplier is related to particular commodity or category companies will be having. For example, it is a raw material supplier that will be handled by raw material category manager. If the supplier is for a promotional item, that will be handled by promotion category manager. Whoever responsible for that particular commodity, they will be accepting the approval. Once it is approved, then the supplier is registered in your system only. If we still did not have established any connection with the supplier, now the supplier is available in our system or in our account. We can able to create some transaction in our account, but that will not get communicated to the supplier. That is called, at this stage, the supplier, whoever created, is called local supplier. The next step, once you created a supplier again, here we can do one more activity. If there are any duplicate vendors are available, Ariba will suggest here when you're clicking on a supplier request, entering the name based on that name, Ariba will say, hey, you have following vendors are already available with this vendor name. Please check once again any of these vendors you are going to recreate. If you found yes, there is a already vendor is created, then you can cancel it. I mean, you can cancel your submission and you can note down that vendor and you can proceed with the next steps of the vendor. How the duplicate will come based on email addresses, based on phone numbers, based on the same name, same description. Yes, standard practices like GSA and other things. You need to have a vendor name, a unique name. As soon as we enter, Ariba will trigger and it will suggest you whether you want to do or not. Again, during the approval process, when it is submitted in the approval process, you can also include a person who is managing the supplier database, like Master Data Governance or Master Data Manager, who verifies deeper details. Maybe the user may not be knowing how to do that one, but the person who is handling this request, he can be verified in multiple ways. Maybe the company name got changed or he is there based on the email address or based on the e-layer transaction with the supplier. He will be having an alert. He can read class verified. And if you found that supplier is available, he can reject that application saying that disapproval. Sorry, there is another vendor existing in our system. Please use that. Communication also will go to the requester. Whoever creating that supplier request, he will be getting communicated why this particular request has been rejected. Based on that comments, he can differentiate with the approval. With this, you have created one step that is called supplier request. Now the next step will be onboarding the supplier into SAP environment. Once you create a supplier request, it's created and supplied is available in your system. It's called Supplier 360 profile. Again, this is also you will be hearing during many of the discussions. What is Supplier 360? This is a single page or a dashboard kind where you can able to access all the related information of the supplier. What you can see is Supplier 360. Once you enter a vendor number, vendor name or vendor number, then you can see whether he is integrated with the ERP. What is his address? Who is his supplier manager? When the supplier got created, are there any tasks associated with him? In the details you can able to see from Supplier 360-degree profile. Even in the Supplier 360, on the left hand side you will also see request registration qualification also. Once you click on request, then you will also see a button called invite. Once you submit this invite button, what will happen? An email notification will go to the vendor. How the email will go? During the form you have entered the email address. To that email address the mail will go to him to register for a SAP Ariba account. Here now, supplier has received the email. Now he has two options. If he already created, he is an Ariba vendor because he is supplying to other customers. What he can do? He can click on sign in and enter his credentials and accept the relationship. If not, he can create a new account by selecting create new. Enter his credentials, his username, password, and what is his company name, what is legal name, and where is the business he located, what are the products and support he is providing, and what is his ship to location, whether he is only shipping in India or he is shipping across the country. All details he will be entering and he will be registering into supplier. As soon as he registered, NAN ID will be generated for him. This is a unique ID to identify a supplier. Now at this stage, we already have one NAN ID on our buyer account. With this invitation and he is accepting our link, he is get connected with suppliers. An ID of the supplier. This is how the relationship is established. Without this relationship, you will not be able to communicate to this supplier, or this supplier cannot communicate to buyer. This is the triggering point how we are going to. We will buy it and supplier going to connect. Now an ID is created. At this stage, supplier registration is completed. He is into supplier registration now. The next process will be supplier qualification. That is again buyer's activity, where he can send a questionnaire asking for more detail. For example, we are asking for a raw material. You want to get from him whether the raw material is having certain standard specifications or not. For example, ISO certification, quality certification, material standard certification, ISA certification. All these things he will be asking. Once he provides a response, whoever gives more score, he will be qualified as a top vendor. Whoever is less, maybe a supplier who is having into the business of 2 years and some other supplier who is having a business into 10 years, he will get priority over this particular vendor. Like that, you can qualify him based on the responses which he had coming, the answers coming from the supplier. You can qualify him for particular commodity or region department. With this, the process of supplier onboarding is completed. As soon as we have a registration, you can able to communicate with the vendor. Some companies start with this process only. They don't even go for a qualification process. As soon as the supplier is available or registered, that is more than enough to control it. But some companies follow this process, mostly commodity-based companies, where they are having huge number of retail customers. Then they will be doing all these stringent operation procedures to qualify a vendor only, to deal with only qualified vendors only, not to deal with a supplier who is not qualified. Now we will take you to the Ariba screen and we will see the first process, how we will create a new supplier. Any thoughts far here? Suppose if this vendor is not, there is some company and he is not there in a company, but he has registered for B company in SAP Ariba. That means he needs to create once again his ID or the same ID can be used. Supplier is now having 2 accounts. Now where he wants to receive the purchase order. Does he want to receive an A? He doesn't need to create a new account. Suppose he wants to maintain different purchase orders. He wants to stop receiving an A. He wants to receive purchase orders in B. Then he has to create a new account. Why I'm asking this is suppose if there is a company like Tata Group. Tata means it has a huge number of company codes because they are into different sectors. Like if it may be an EV sector and it can be a normal automobile sector. Both are different company codes, for example. Then in that case, he needs to register for both separately. Understood? That's what the triggering point will be. He wants to receive the purchase order. He can maintain different JNDs for different company codes and he can make as a one central account. Once the PIO received in central account, then they can distribute also. There may be some situations where even though you are having multiple company codes, administration may be having only registered office, or they might be having a central procurement or central sales department. Once the PIO or the quotation comes, the department will take care and they will assign to the relevant salesman. In that situation, you can still maintain with the ANA. It is all depending on how you want to receive the purchase order and invoices. How your GL account will be maintained. Suppose you want to maintain separate GL account. It is always preferred to have different NNA because you can see the order and the dispatches and invoices for that particular company. And the second question is regarding this qualification. Is this qualification similar to that what we have in SAP? When the qualification we have that in multi-module. I have not done in SAP quality module. What here will be happening is you are going to send a question to the vendor. But that is not there in SAP, right? In SAP we do not have the question. But what we do is we do the vendor qualification. Because you are saying that this vendor is qualified for a particular purchase group or particular company like that. Yes, not only that, but even the qualification means what we do is we even qualify their lines, how they are producing, are they meeting the quality standards, but what are their recent incidents happen and are they tracking them, how they are mitigating. Even those things also we will be verifying in and will be maintaining in our SAP system. By because if there is any audit, we have to show them the product. What we are getting from the vendor is also a qualified vendor and he is having all the required standards. Understood. The requirement is same because in the quality management, you are verifying the vendor before you qualify. The same thing in Ariba. How it will work is you will have a question I had sent to the supplier. Also, you can send the same question to the internal team member. Sounds like your quality department. You can send it. Based on the responses, you can do the qualification. And can we have a? If you do the supplier qualification, there will be two qualifications. One is internal qualification, where you're going to communicate with internal department like purchase department, quality department, audit department. Give the ratings whether the supplier is providing good credit and he will give good marks. If the supplier quality is good, then he will get better marks. How you can design your questionnaire according to the based on the responses, you can decide how you want to qualify. You want to qualify for a particular commodity or you want to qualify all commodity. All these things are the combinations will be possible. And even can we have the date for the validation? Suppose I want to qualify this only for big. Till this date he is qualified. Yes, you can do that. How long you do it or your disqualification process will start whenever over a period you can disqualify him and you can also do a performance management. That is the next level. And during that time, every 6 months or every quarterly or every annually, they can monitor his performance and take action from that option. Oh, great, great. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, I have one more question. Not sure during qualification whether we can put a hard stop on the date and all but overthrow supply performance management. You can do that. You can validate his performance and mark it as a disqualification. But with that, we will check out when we are doing it, we will see the option. I have one question. For example, if a vendor really want to be used rebar, for example, if they want a vendor, they don't want to afford rebar access, getting some spending some money. Still, can we create an AD and send this purchase or through a network mode? I got it. It's a very good question. Valid question. Also, there are two types of accounts are available in Supplier. As soon as supplier is registered in Rebar, it is called light account or standard account. Earlier they used to call that as a light account. Now it is called as a standard account. Then the second account will be enterprise account. The first one is pre-F case where you register with the supplier. Whatever the quotations coming from your supplier, you can respond. They have n number of questionnaires coming or n number of RFPs coming. You can participate. There is no need to pay any charge. The second one is an enterprise account. If you are migrating from standard account to enterprise account, you will get additional benefits. What is those benefits? You can do the invoicing in Rebar itself and you will be knowing the payment status instantly on Rebar. You can also have discount pricing and other features are available and you will get support of priority over the standard account. If you want to go with this, then there is some nominal amount needs to be paid based on your volume of transaction or volume of your invoice. How much value of your invoice is for a particular period based on some percentages. Again, the percentage change from region to region in which region he is registering. Based on that local region, he has to pay the charges. If you don't want to pay this charge and you want to use his own invoicing system, then he can deal with only light account and standard account where he can able to the purchaser's address And he can also participate in our FP and RFAs or auction charges. Clear? Or if we want to totally avoid registering into SAP Ariba, then the supplier where you are having a local supplier, whenever you are sending a purchase address, the purchase address will not go to the supplier. You have to take a printout and send to the supplier and mark the purchase address manually sent to the vendor. Then you close the order status as an order status. Is it clear? Initially, when onboarding the supplier, we don't have any details, maybe the details which we discussed in the mail or via phone. Know the basic details. The form which I mentioned during supplier protection, that is your details. Whatever you're entering in this form, only that is available, and that is available for buyer only. Buyer, as soon as he knows his limited information of email address location, maybe he will not be knowing much detail. With these details, he will create the supplier. During supply registering over Ariba, he will enter all other details. Again, the details are not relevant to us. We just need to have a supplier name only. We don't care whether he is located in different country. That doesn't matter because for us his unit is important. Where we get the purchase has to be received by the supplier. That is our goal. Here we are sending the invoice card that whenever you're issuing an email notification, you told me that you will be registering and will be completely reached by providing some information. Just what username and password we will be using to log into Ariba. Because this is something you need to log in. Again, not relevant to us. Whatever he wants to create, it will give the option. Whether he can maintain his email address as a username or he can create a new as per his willing. He can create one username and he can assign it also. Also in his account, he will be adding multiple users. Like not one person is using, and that he will be having user management administration. He can decide who is the administrator by year 1, by year 2, by year 3. He can create different logins for different people also. They can also log in and you can also restrict the access. Maybe by year 1 cannot communicate with this particular supplier. By year 2 cannot communicate with this software. All these things are possible under his access in the supplier network. In his control, he can able to do that. And the supplier in test is free only. You can create multiple supplier and do practice. There is no harm. You can as soon as you want. You can create many email IDs. You can create and you can do. We're going to see that. The first step in software management will be creating a supplier request. Before that, I just want to show you what is Supplier 360-degree profile. Here, as we have seen this menu option by clicking on here. Now, whatever you're seeing is Procurement Invoicing Catalyst. That means again, if you see the U, ALIL, you can see that we are in a downstream. Supplier management is an upstream activity. For that, you need to switch over to the parent site by clicking on the site option. By clicking on Supplier Management. You can see automatically once you log into parent site it is having sourcing contract supplier management. In few projects we don't have this parent and share combination. It's like a single system. You don't need to click this one. You will be having all these options here. Whenever we're clicking supply, it will just show the sourcing. And whenever we are going in to buy a site, maybe it will just directly automatically. That will dynamically change in the URL bar. Whatever transaction you're clicking, automatically it will switch over from. For example, from here, if you're taking procurement, it will take you to the buyer. If you're clicking some content, it will come to source. This is Supplier 360 dashboard or Supplier Management dashboard. Now you can see, luckily, this supplier, this time I'm having 476 supplier requests, and which are accessible for this particular user. In real time, whenever supply request he is creating, he can only see how many he has created. Not that as an administrator, we can have all the details, but the person who is requesting, he will only see how many number of users he is requesting and what are in registration status, how many are in qualification. By this you can able to, as a supplier management role, you can perform the activities completing supply request registration qualification. I am just selecting any one of the supplier, or you can also search here, enter supplier name or ID, whichever you want to do, you can able to do that. By just clicking on the company name, it will take you to the supplier 360-degree profile. Since it is in the process, it is directing to the process. Click on View Software Profile. This is the supplier 360-degree profile. GK Healthcare Private Limited. What is his registration status? What is his preferred status? ERP integration. If small information gather will be on the home page itself to see whether the supplier, what is the status? What are all the supplier? ID. SMN vendor ID is Spend Management Vendor ID, which is local vendor ID. When you are integrating with your ERP, what is the ID which is associated with the SAP in your external system? That ID and end ID of the supplier. You can see -T, that means it is a test. Not via introduction. You will not see this -T. ASM ID again, it is an internal Ariba ID. If there is a risk associated, then you will be seeing this. Otherwise, you will not see this option. On the left hand side, the process. You can see supplier request when you click this one. What was the name supplier during the form I mentioned? What is the details you entered in the form? It will give you the details. Once you click on registration, it will give you the details of the registration. Who has approved it? What is the current status? Why it is not approved? How many questionnaires are sent during registration process? These are all the approval tasks that you can see from registration questionnaires and processes. Processes is an advanced functionality. Instead of following the process, you can create one process with multiple options. There you can able to qualify and disqualify also. On the left hand side contacts, when you click on contact, who is the supplier manager associated with this particular supplier. This is the email ID which is going in the invitation map. The invitation link will go to this particular contract of GP Healthcare. By clicking on plus, you can add additional users also. If you know that is not a primary contact, then you can make one of the contacts as a primary contact. You can add multiple one particular company. Maybe this company code is already existing, but you are dealing with a different salesman. You can enter their details. Whenever you are transacting, you can decide where it has to go. ERP data, it will just give you, this is the new model or a new SLP model. Why we are calling new LLP model? This is something similar to your ERP environment, where you can see tabular-based environment where the purchasing will be having different tab. Sales will have a different tab. Material description will have different tab. The same format. Ariba also started using that for integration purposes. It is very easy to integrate with the ERP system. Whatever the certificates associated with the supplier, you can see from the certificate area. Activity log will give you full details about when he has started registering, and all these things will be available. It's a kind of a history of the transaction happened with this particular supplier. We'll go back to the supplier request, or you can go to the home page also. In the middle of this thing, you can cancel it. Click on home page. By just clicking on SAP, it can take it to the home page, or click on home table. You can go to home. Now click on create. Supplier request. If you are seeing supplier, that means that is an older environment. If you are seeing supplier request, that means you are in SLP latest environment or new environment. Now you are seeing the supplier request form, right? This can be controlled by us. That means we can also modify what is required information as a consultant. We can do that. I'll going to show in upcoming session how you can design or change the required information. I'll just enter certain details and to see supplier first name. This supplier last name, I will say ABC. B. Supplier full name, sorry. Whatever is mentioned, those are all compulsory. The rest all may not be compulsory. Supplier email address. This supplier first contact name. The first one. Commodities. How you will be selecting? By selecting this, it will tell all commodities. By clicking on this arrow, it will take you to the next sub level. From there also you can choose. Here I'm selecting this for building and construction chemicals, these two categories of the supplier and region. I can take any of the region. Let's take here. What is the turnover of the person, the company? If you want to do it too later, then you can do that. Or if you want to submit, you can submit now. Ariba is trying to find out those cases. There is one company called, now I'm creating ABC Limited. There is already one company existing with ABC Still Limited. If I found this is the correct vendor ID, I can take note of this one or just copy this name. Or you can do that one. You can cancel your request. Or if you feel that both are not same, then you can ignore and submit your request. Supply request. Progression is progress. Once it is complete, you can submit the request. Click on Done. Let's go to the supplier management again. Then you will be seeing supplier request ABC, which I have just created, which is in approval. By clicking on this, you can click on Action View. Now awaiting approval, onboarding team by a server. This person has to give an approval. Potential duplicate. It is saying in approval. Being this role, he is having the permission. He can see this approve button. Otherwise, the consent approval will be receiving a notification. Either you click on notification, it will take you to this page. You can come to supplier management. Click on this details and approve also. Which other way? Suppose if you want to deny, you can deny this one. You can send a communication back saying that this is the duplicate vendor A, B, C. We have seen one more name, right? With this vendor, you can create something like that. You can put, or if you want, more information need to be collected from the requester when he is providing. I need full address of the supplier to create the registration. You can ask for a request, additional details also, which other ways you can do that. For time being, I am clicking on approve. Who will be finished? Like to go to supplier manager approval. As I mentioned, it will go to the supplier management or category manager. For example, this particular commodity which I am selecting here, right? Where the commodity I am selecting, building and construction, may access this and chemical. You can define approval flow if the commodity code is this one. Who has to approve if the commodity code is this one? Or you have a central team irrespective of the commodity or reason. Any new software is created. It has to go to a supplier manager who will take a decision, and that supplier manager will be added into the approval flow. We can configure that approval flow. We don't need to depend on Ariba as a consultant. We will be configuring this approval flow during our initial project creation itself. We can do that even later. We can modify who has to approve this approval flow. To that person, it will go. Email will go for approval. Now, since we are having admin access, we can also approve. I am clicking on approve. I hope I answered your question. Yes. You can put any remarks, whatever you want, or maybe multiple people are there. They can enter whoever the person has approved it. Click on Donor Refresh. It should go to this step. See, now you see request is created, approval is made, new supplier is created. At this stage, the supplier is available in your local vendor. It is also called local vendor, and still the relationship is not established with this. Now I have approved this, a B, C vendor. I think it should be in registration. Or maybe once I click on invite, then it will go to registration. Let's see. Once we send the invitation, then automatically this will be removed from here and it will go to the registration. Actually, without approval, will not that sum. I mean, whatever the document, like supplier request or whatever it is, will not that go straight away to the supplier. That you can configure. It is a not mandatory step. During our template management, if you don't want it has to auto approve, because we are confident that whoever is creating this supplier request are well versed. They don't create any duplicate vendors. In that situation, you can avoid this approval automatically. As soon as you submit the supplier request form, then it will get approved. I mean, without invite, it will not go to the supplier. If you're asking whether automatically it will go to the supplier, that is not possible. Sorry, I need to explain one more scenario also. But whatever you have seen is from the buyer side. Suppose your company does not have this process. Whoever is your supplier, they have to enter this form detail, not by you. In this case, Ariba will give you a URL. Again, that is called external form or external facing supplier request form. That link can be pasted or can be embedded on your home page of your corporate website. What will happen whenever, for example, where you want to deal with Tata Steel, Tata Motors, they will advise to go to our website, the procurement center, click on new vendor and enter your details. Someone will review and approve it. In that case, what will happen? The form details will be entered by the supplier. That will come for your approval. You will be verifying whatever the supplier has provided information. Once you click on approve, then the supplier is requested. Then you need to create invite button. Then the supplier will receive the form and he will be contained. Whatever the form you entered, that is the buyer side, same details will be entered by the supplier using external form. That is called supplier request section mentioned here. Two types of forms. The supplier request or used by air facing. It can be supplier facing or it is also called self-service. And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.